What's up, guys? We're here, Road to Black Podcast, episode 34, with my brother Wes, and our guest today is Patrick Almeida. Patrick, Wes, what's up, guys?
What's
What's
up?
up, bro?
Who got their training in today?
This guy.
Wes did. Okay. Patrick, you weren't feeling too good today. You went and got a COVID shot?
Man,
Or
I got
a
a
COVID
COVID.
test, I should say.
Yeah, I got a COVID test today. Was just watching the people today. Was negative, but no training for me so far.
Feeling a little under the weather?
Man, bad throat, head, fever, everything. But if it's negative, it's negative. I'm cool.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, thank you for coming onto the podcast, even though you're not feeling so well. Um, we'll try to keep it going here and keep it short and simple. Basically, we want to have you on here, talk about your experience with jiu-jitsu. I know we've been working a lot with Wes lately. I met you at my business in Tempe, Chill Fit Cryo. So I met you you were with Orlando coming through. Give us a little background of where you're living at right now, what kind of training you're doing. I know you have a pretty extensive history with jiu-jitsu. We can talk about that, but tell us how long you've been training and basically give us a little bit of your background and let people know who you are and how you fit into the jiu-jitsu world.
Guys, thank you for the invitation first. So, I started jiu-jitsu 13 years ago, if I'm not wrong. Almost 13 years ago now. I started when I was 15. I'm 27. 12, almost 13 years. Uh, I'm from Rio, from Brazil. You can see by the accent, my Portuguese accent. I'm in Texas right now. I was in Hawaii. I moved up to US almost 2 years ago too, and I'm training McAllen in South Texas. Pretty much that. And I have like you guys said, I've been in Russia, I've been in Portugal, in Brazil. I've been traveling pretty much whole Europe, a little of the Middle East. Always competing, training jiu-jitsu, and so on.
Is that something was that something you set out to do when you were younger and started jiu-jitsu? Did you always know you wanted to travel? What's causing you to move around so much? And do you love the experience of traveling and training across the world?
Man, I love the experience for traveling for sure. I think that's one of my goals, when I was starting, not jiu-jitsu, but like thinking about having a career in my life. I always want to man, I want to do something that's gonna make me be able to be traveling to know the world. But what happened that I moved to Russia to do my medical college. I got a scholarship in medical school when I was 20 years old, and I moved to study medical school in medicine course. But I could not stop training. Right, I was a purple belt, and I started training. And after I was helping the school, and after I was opening my own school, and after I received an offer to move to another school and be one of the professors. And once you're inside Europe, everything's super close. All the countries are really close for each other. And the competitions, like for example, next week I'm going to Vegas. Uh, in a month I'm gonna be going to Phoenix. In Europe is different. Instead of going states, you move countries. You go to Russia, to Portugal, to England, because it's pretty much like England. US is huge. It's like Brazil. It's a huge country.
Hmm.
It looks like a continent. So that's how it would happen.
Same distances as the States over in Europe.
hmm
Yeah.
So, what team were you? So, you came up. You came up with Muhammad Ali, and in that gym, who are you? Who did you first start training under? And kind of what was that experience like? Training down in Brazil, where you're from, and then carrying that over into the U.S. and all the different areas that you lived.
So I started in a small gym, call it Vikings. Do you guys ever remember the old gi, we call it Krugans? A very, very old gi, like the Hands of Grace used to use.
Mm-mm.
It's a old company, one of the very first gi companies in Brazil. And the owner of this gi company, he was also owner of the gym. But the gym closed, and I moved to Nogueira Brothers in Tia Nogueira in Brazil. The Nogueira brothers, they were black belt from De La Riva, and De La Riva also black belt from Carson Gracie. So everybody from De La Riva, Tino Nogueira and Carson Gracie, they used to train together, used to cross train. My professor at the time was Everaldo Penco, the guy who guided me from the green belt to the my black belt. And that's where I was training most of the time of my life back to Brazil. That was where I used to train with Muhammad and everybody go together, you know. It's back to the red quarters of Tino Nogueira.
Gotcha. So you kind of mentioned something about cross training. We talk a lot about this on the podcast. Back in the day here in the States, so I've been training about 13 years here in the States, and there are some schools still this way where cross training is verboten. You don't allow your students to cross train. And so you come in, you've been training 12, 13 years, and you've already mentioned cross training just in the few minutes we've been on this podcast. How much do people in Brazil cross train? Because sometimes here in the U.S., some schools don't like their students to cross train. And how much do you currently cross train, and how much are you cross training in the past in Brazil?
So back to Brazil, man. For a long time, you cross training was something like you're a traitor, you know. You cannot be training for other guys. They are your enemy, and so on. But what started to happening in Brazil, a lot of the things. Let's say, let's use the my case. Carson Gracie, he had like a lot of legends under his name. De La Riva, Murilo Bustamante, who was a world champion, Belfort, and all these guys. So what happened? Some of these guys they separate from the professor. Other guys they still kept the relationship with him, still was his friends and so on. So his students he start to compete under Carson Gracie or under the La Riva name, and that is keep happen. For example, my professor he opened his gym that it was not a De La Riva. I will open my gym and it was not a De La Riva, but everybody still trained together. So if you are going for outside the family, let's say outside the family, outside your lineage, some people may see you strange in the past or even nowadays. But the training that I had, because we were an MMA team, we had people for everyone, everywhere. We have guys from Nova União, we have guys from Kimura, we have guys from Alliance, because we're MMA gym. So I grew up in an environment in a way that we are always training. If doesn't matter the flag, it doesn't matter where the guy come from, because what it was important for us was have a hard training, not say oh the guy has a flag or other flag. I believe most of the cases people doesn't like cross training because they don't feel secure, they don't feel safe about themselves and about losing the students to another person, you know. And that was not a problem for us the way that I grew up.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What with cross training and training in general across the world, what is your experience? How is jiu-jitsu like a language that is the same throughout the world? Because you have experiences in so many different places, is jiu-jitsu, do you find the same experiences in Russia versus, living and training in Russia versus Brazil versus the United States? Is it different in good ways or bad? Did you have to make adjustments throughout your training to kind of go with the environment, or were you always the person that everyone looked to teach and kind of set the style of jiu-jitsu, set the tone of the gym?
So I believe that jiu-jitsu is something funny because the culture of the places really changes the jiu-jitsu of the person. For example, if you go back to Russia, they have a very good background in sambo, wrestling, and judo because they have like years and years of history on these sports. So if you're gonna train jiu-jitsu in Russia, you're gonna feel very powerful takedowns. They have a mentality. They're like, man, you gotta be tough. So you gotta be strong. You gotta do powerful takedowns. You gotta stay on top. You know. So That's it's how they do over there. So, for example, in the United States, people in the United States, you guys are very methodological. You have a lot of method,
Hmm.
right? So you have naming for every position. You have a structure for training for all the situations. You have a mind mapping, all this stuff. And if you go back to Brazil, man, in Brazil, most of the times, the professor don't even know what he's gonna teach in the day, and like that's the style. Everything is about improvisation. You get in the position like I don't even know how I did that position, but I did happen. And each culture creates a new style of jiu-jitsu. I think that when I was teaching, I pretty much tried to keep carry for me like the De La Riva style, my professor style, the things that I learned, and that people was curious to know because like if I was a guy, for example, a very good guy in takedown went to Russia, people are gonna come like, hey man, okay, we have these already here. Or if I was a very good guy in wrestling, freestyle wrestling, and come to United States and start to do the same method, people are like, okay, I have these, I can go to a college wrestler or something like that and do. So I think the fact that I have like not old school because like De La Riva is not a new guy, but he has like a more fluid game, more flow game. I think people look up to me to learn this style, the kind of the what they say is the Brazilian style. If that answers it.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's interesting too. Very interesting. When you in your own game, when you're training jujitsu or teaching, do you look for weaknesses in your own game, and how do you address, like, since you come up with more of a flow style, very spontaneous, but you also live in the United States now, you also experience US gyms, and like you said it yourself, maybe more structured training, or more, the wealth of knowledge at every gym is growing, especially in the United States, because there's set curriculums, and even something that's outside of this professor's base and level of comfort. A lot of professors now take it to another step. Either they're learning and bringing stuff back to their students, maybe something that they don't know, or they get experts coming in and doing cross training in bringing, whether it's seminars or something. What's your approach to, you've been training a long time, you're a black belt, you competed all over the world. How do you focus on getting better? Is it just more training, or is it something that you really think of? I have weaknesses, I'm going to address those. Especially if you're your own. At this level, you're a very knowledgeable guy in every gym, any gym you walk into. So there's going to be times when you're going into a place and you're the most knowledgeable. So how do you address the situations when you think you need to improve when you're away from your instructors?
So if I understood right, uh, let's say when I was back to Russia, we had a lot of cross training for high level judo guys. Like even Olympic guys used to come up to the gym training for us sometimes. And I felt like I'm not gonna be taking down these guys, but I gotta learn. I cannot be like the guy walk and take me down just walking. And when
Yeah.
I came to US, I was like, man, and I learned some wrestling in Russia, but when I came here was different. The angles, how the guys do here is different. The power is different. So I was like, man, I gotta get stronger. And in the style, you guys have very good takedowns over here, very powerful takedowns, and attack a lot of the foot. So I was like, man, I gotta learn how to at least block the takedowns, so I can start to do my guard game, do the stuff, or even do the takedown, stay on top. And now, for example, IBJJF changed the rules, and I may need to learn the heel hooks. I may need to do all this stuff. Even when I'm training for Rosemar Palhares in the past, I gotta learn because that was not something often. So I believe first jiu-jitsu is very seasonal. You have a time that everybody was doing berimbolo, have a time that everybody was doing leg drag. Now I had a time everybody was doing single X, for example now. So I try to update my game by what I'm seeing in the competitions because let's say I have a very good let's say I have a very good Toriano pass. But if everybody's doing single X, I'm not gonna and I don't find a way to get in the Toriano pass. Doesn't matter what I'm good if I'm not be able to put myself in that situation. So I've been studying a lot of the competitions, and I think I changed a lot in my game. The top part. try do not be pulling guard all the time without trying takedowns. We try to get better and trying to avoid give my foot because very big problem about I believe most of the guys from Brazil because we don't attack like in the past. You do foot locks was something that was bad. You know, people like man, the guy just know how to do foot
Mm-hmm.
locks. They just know how to attack leg locks or something like that. So we grew up, the guys from Brazil, most of the guys, with the mentality like, no, you cannot be doing foot lock because that's not nice, or you cannot be doing this game because it's not nice. And when I came to US, that was totally different. That was something more normal. So I'm trying to be more offensive with my guard, doing more takedowns, and at the same time I'm not exposing myself to the foot locks or the knee bars or heel hooks like most of the guys here like to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Just adapting, recognizing what you need to work on, and making changes.
Do you have a
That's what you gotta
process
do.
that you go through? So I think that self-analyzing your game, I don't want to say overly critical of your game and your performance, but you obviously have to look at yourself with some sort of objectivity so that you can see how you're performing and areas that you can improve. Do you have how do you go about that process of saying, okay, this is something I need to address? I mean, is there a process that you go through, or is it competition performance? Is it I got caught in this and now I have to address this? How do you address finding those actual weaknesses?
Man, I think like when you are able to go in a competition, sometimes one competition is worth a month or 2 months of training because you're actually seeing what you're doing right or wrong. We know like there is a lot of factors like how you're feeling the day, how you did the diet and so on. But like some technical issues that you see in the competition, the heat of the moment, shows up a lot what you gotta learn. For example, in my case, my last competition, I was like, man, I took down a guy who's a high level judo guy, a guy trained in Japan, like judo in Japan, and I put him down doing wrestling after defense one of his takedowns, but I was caught in a heel hook. So I was like, man, okay, I grew up a lot. I'm actually taking down a guy who's a high level in the takedowns, but I did a mistake and got caught in a heel hook. Maybe if I didn't find that competition, I was not gonna have the urgency to go after learning heel hooks defenses or getting better in doing that position. So I think competition is really important. And always when I'm training, I try to create a mind mapping that I'm doing. For example, if I'm passing a knee cut and I know that a guy gonna frame, I can switch sides and try to do a knee weave or a back step or something like that. So I try always to create in my mind, even sometimes making notes which path I could do it, you know. So step by step, I go creating and developing my game by this way.
Gotcha. Is that something? So the mind mapping, did you pick that up here in the U.S.? Is that a newer kind of development for you, or is this something that you picked up in Brazil? Where did you pick up that concept?
So my professor, very like he's a very smart guy and like he always talking about this with us, but I never understood this until I started studying another things and here in the US. Because when you have like the methods, like the for example the curriculums that you have here and all the stuff, all the structure, make the student, make the person who is learning have a better understanding, make it tangible. So like I'm going left because of this, I'm going right because of this. Like I said, in Brazil, you learn this, but like there is no structure, there is no nothing, no, there is nothing like let's say a formal learning. You know, that's like it's like some when you're gonna shake somebody's hand, and like that's nobody teaches you, but that's a rule that you learn by seeing the people doing. But when you actually like know these, actually understand these, and you can write down, makes it easier to understanding and make it easier to progress, make it easier to create the next steps for the positions, the best defense, the best attack, the best sweep, A, B, or C, you know. And that I think most of these I got here in US, seeing you guys doing how you guys like creating the methods, you know.
So this is a question. So I'm kind of going through a little bit deeper with this question. But if let's say that you are maybe a jiu-jitsu blue belt or a purple belt, and maybe you're at a school that isn't going into that next layer of creating these systems and mind mapping, what advice would you give to somebody to take that ownership on themselves? How would you advise somebody that's wanting to go into that next step that's maybe not getting that structure at their gym?
Results, man. That's simple. Because I believe everything, if you're going to, doesn't matter if you're gonna have a competitive gym, if you're gonna have a recreational gym, you are looking for results. You want to teach jiu-jitsu to your student. You want to teach jiu-jitsu for the, doesn't matter if a kid, if it's a master, is whatever. And you gotta have understanding that if you're doing this way, you're gonna make way easier for your student to learn. You're gonna make way easier for you to compete. So if the result is not the most important thing that you can have about your learning process and your teaching process, I don't know what it would be, you know. I think it's because like a lot of people are lazy to sit down in your free time and like, hey, let's sit down here and let's write down this, you know. Most of the guys they don't do because they're lazy. Because they don't want to lose their free
Yeah.
time on the weekend or something like that, you know. Because everybody inside knows, you know which positions you're gonna do. But this is something that you're creating 10 years of your path. But imagine for a white belt, for a blue belt who is doing maybe 6 months, 1 year, he doesn't have these following. He's gonna take maybe 5, 6 years to learn something that you can give it to him and like, hey, we're gonna work these, and that back and forth so you can follow and make these automatically, you know. So what happened instead of the guy take 2 years to be a blue belt and understand and be able to compete or get a better training for you too, he gonna take a one, maybe less, depending on his results and his time he's gonna spend in the mats, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all about that external, that additional learning, putting more time off the mat and studying. And for someone that's been doing it a long time like you, it comes easy because you see the positions in your head. You can do that mind mapping in your head right now as we're sitting here talking. I mean, I'm sure you could just go through things where if you're a new person, you don't, like you said, you don't have the breadth of knowledge. You don't have the 10 years of experience. So you're limited on the pathways and the maps that you can make. You know, the really it's just the pathways, you know, going from this position to this position, or like you said, knee slice here, you know what they're going to do in defense. I'm going to, you know, transition to this other path. So I think whether you're new or, like you said yourself, sometimes you write it down. It's all about that additional work, the additional study that you're getting outside of the gym, really, because you're not sitting taking notes when you're on the mats. You might be taking mental notes, but at some point you also have to, and we talk about this a lot on this podcast, where when you're in the gym, you're learning what your professor or what your coach is teaching you, but you have a lot of free time outside the gym to start really thinking about that stuff, but also how to incorporate either the lesson for today or incorporate new moves that you're seeing online on YouTube. How do you incorporate those things along with your jiu-jitsu and start mapping things out? And we've said that before here. It just takes extra effort, you know? And like you said, whether it's laziness, definitely for some people, or some people are just clueless and don't understand that to get good at jiu-jitsu, you need to do those other things, you know? There's not a lot of professors that, more so now, especially because a lot of gyms have online training in addition. So your professor might teach you a lesson, but also say, hey, for the weekend, this weekend, guys, go search this or go learn this move or go pay attention to this video and get some external, you know. If you're not competing, I completely agree with competition being equivalent of 2 months of training. You know, there's a lot of people have said that, you know, it's like taking 30 classes at once because everything is highlighted, your positives and your negatives. But for our listeners, especially people that are on the road to black belt, you have to take it upon yourself to start making those maps. We've talked about this concept before, but it's not going to happen naturally it's just not going to come to you, because like you said, in the old way, if you're improvising every day, yeah, you can learn things and it might take you 5 years, but you, Patrick, can teach someone. You already know the mapping, you know the pathways. You can teach someone and bring them up to speed a lot faster. So I think it's important for coaches and instructors to also put that out there and help this. And my coaches have always done that. They're good coaches going to tell you this is what this move leads to, but also be careful of this. This is the way they're going to defend. If they defend this way, you're going to do this. That's not every case, because you have people teaching jiu-jitsu out there that don't even know those pathways. And so their breadth of knowledge, and Wes and I talked about this before the podcast, is going to be very tight and small. So I think as an instructor, and I'm sure you've done this too when you coach people, is that you help them see those pathways and see those transitions. I mean, I think you would agree, once you get into your higher belts, by purple belt, you need to be transitioning, and it has to be coming to you. You can't sit there like frozen in time thinking of what to do next. It should start to flow when you get into the upper belts, moving from position to position.
Man, I believe that the difference from the white belt to the black belt, pretty much, it's like chess. You're gonna see, when you get a black belt, you're gonna see 3, 4, 5 steps forward, because you know the mind mapping. You know what gonna lead position. And attached to this, you have how you distribute your weight, how you manage the risk that you're getting to go in certain position, and how you control the distance. If you have understanding of these 3 things, and you can get steps forward in your game ahead of the guy that you're fighting against or train against, whatever, that's how you get a black belt. Pretty much that is it. Because do a arm bar in the close guard from the white belt and do arm bar in the close guard from the black belt, you're gonna be the same position. The difference is gonna be this: you're not gonna escape your hips so backwards. You're gonna change your angle a little. You're gonna be heavier with your foot to sink the head down. Maybe you're gonna feel that the guy gonna stack you and you're gonna go back to the close guard, or you're gonna try roll inward to do a reverse arm bar with the belly down. That's what changed from the white belt to the black belt. That's going to be the reaction by the understanding of the mind mapping and the experience that he has.
Beautiful. That's a great point.
Those are fantastic.
3 great points. That makes so much sense. You just see and I have a long ways to go to get to that point too, but I recognize that my skills in recognizing those steps are getting better every year I train. I can see farther down the path, and that's such a great point, because that is really what separates skill. I mean, that's what separates its experience, and it's being on the mats for extended periods of time where you recognize those things.
So tell us a little bit about you've got American Nationals coming up. You're kind of starting to prep for PANS. You've got a whole season planned out. Tell us about your competition prep. Tell us about what you're kind of how you're prepping for it.
Man, I was in Hawaii, and I had once again a knee injury because of not guided training. And a really good guy called Wes, he contacted me, and man, for real, I'm super grateful, because I was already giving up. I went to doctors, and all the doctors said man, it's a LCL. You already had surgery before. Gonna do another surgery, and I was like, man, I was about to go to Dallas, and I was like, bro, I don't even fight Dallas. And this guy came to me no, man, I think we should try. Let's go for a different way. Let's do the physiotherapy. Let's work out. Let's start doing the training. And I think it was 2 weeks, barely walking, no training. And after 2 weeks, after I fought Dallas, I fought even good. I lost by 2 points on the gi, and I did a monster takedown on the guy, and I did bad and got the heel hook. But man, for somebody who was with the knee literally out of the place, I was man, I actually fought, you know. And after that, we start talking. We start talking about do the training, progress the physical training, the physiotherapy, all the steps. And I decided to move here. Once I moved here, we schedule all of our trainings to do physical therapy and physical education for 3 times a week. And I train jiu-jitsu every day, at least once in a day, from Monday to Saturday. Most of the times, if not wrong, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday train twice. And I was invited to help in a MMA camp, help in the grappling part for two athletes who are gonna fight the Lux Championship. That's the biggest event in America, Latin American. And I'm doing the grappling part of them, the wrestling, doing this part. And man, so far feeling strong. And it was funny because when you guys met me last time, I was 218. I was losing weight to fight in the heavyweight, and I'm 188. I'm like sharp.
Wow.
It's like 30 pounds though in like maybe 5 months, 6 months. I don't know. It was like crazy and feeling better. That's funny because I feel stronger than I was before. The body moves different, you know, like I used to be
Hmm.
before the injuries. That's really great, man.
Sounds good.
That's awesome. I always tell everybody, I'm not the one doing the training. I design workouts, I help people get their goals, but you're the one doing the training. And so I'm obviously happy with, I'm super happy that you're competing. You're doing two camps right now. You're doing an MMA camp. You're doing a jiu-jitsu camp, and then you've got American Nationals coming up. What is your seasonal goals this year? Do you have any seasonal goals as far as jiu-jitsu
Man,
competition?
it's the Pan Ams because I think one like how you were saying about sometimes one competition works like a month or 2 months of training. But more important than that, when you're consistent doing the competitions, you go adjusting your game competition by competition. So, man, the last competition that I fought was Dallas, was what, February? I have a gap between like 4 months between my last competition now. So, I want to get good in nationals. I want to win the Aussie and then go for win the Grand Slam. That's Pan Am's, you know, because you need to be competing. You can see every besides like the legends like Buchecha or maybe other Roger or something like that. That guys they are not normal human beings. Everybody, even Lo, the guys who won several words, they are fighting constantly. They are always being consistent and fighting because that's how you adjust your game. You know, if you're not Buchecha, if you're not Bruno Malfacini, I don't believe that you're gonna stay 1 year without compete and go there and win. You know, for me, that's very important. Get this step by step, win all the fight all the competitions, win the competitions, and get ready for the Pan Ams, and reset everything to do the season. That maybe the words in the end of the year. I believe they're gonna have the words in December, since you're gonna have master words in November. So if you have the words, I would like to do the words, and after reset everything for the last year, do a full season jiu-jitsu. You know, slow down, don't move up to MMA yet, but do a full season jiu-jitsu. My last full season. That's I'm going. I think one season can change everything in your life, right? You see, like for example, Craig
Hmm.
Jones.
That's right.
Man, I was in the ADCC Finland, bro. I never heard about Craig Jones before he did the flying triangle and took the back. I never.
Hmm.
And who's Craig Jones now? Everybody says he's number two in the world in Nogi. Not saying like if it wasn't that he's not gonna be the number two, but the fact that he did that season so good and get the result, making his name and open opportunities for him. The same like Giles, man, he submitted Muhammad, kinda, and I think Audio in the same competition. That's crazy. That was like the day of his life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I never heard about him before, and he changed.
Yeah.
He
Make a statement.
make a statement exactly. So that's what I'm looking for. Have my good season, and after move to MMA.
So you're gonna do the switch to MMA.
I wanna, man. I grew up in MMA gym, and like
Yeah.
I grew up like doing because when you're under 18 in Brazil, you cannot do it from your parents don't sign, you know. So the guys will come to do jiu-jitsu to have a round, and I was super light. I'm 6'2", and I was like 140 something pounds until I was like 18 years old, 19 years old. So I used to go to the guys used to invite me to do the rounds with the guys, the grappling rounds, and I was like, man, I want to fight, and my parents never let me do it. And then I also was going to medical school and all this stuff, and I was like, man, you were studying a lot. How you gonna do MMA in the same time they do medical school? That's not possible, all this stuff. But I want to have the experience, man. That's why I'm training. I always train like I believe that I was training hard. But that's why I'm like I think the word like risking, pretty much risking, because when you're going to a different art, like do striking is different though. It's different. That's why I see a lot of very good jiu-jitsu guys. They step up, they put the gloves, and then they'll keep.
So with how much training, MMA training, are you doing now?
Man,
how do you manage the extra training, knowing that in a year you're going to want to tax your body and tax your mind with all more skill? I'm sure you grew up in an MMA gym. I'm sure you're familiar with the different arts that it takes. But what's your plan for transitioning?
So my plan, man, you gotta get really, really good in wrestling because after jiu-jitsu, I'm not gonna be like strike everyone. At least in beginning, I don't wanna be like, okay, let's be the next Adesanya and let's be the next Anderson Silva. The guys have 10 years doing what I do in jiu-jitsu. The guys have in Muay Thai. So I wanna get a very solid wrestling, learn how to get control of the ground. That's really, really hard. People think that's easy. Keep the guy on the ground. It's hard though. The guy is sweating, he's pushing your face, doing all this stuff, and get enough hands so don't need to be like. For example, I'm a big fan of Damian Maia. Big fan. For me, he's one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the whole history by what he did in MMA, the number of submissions and all this stuff. But man, if he doesn't take down the guy, there is no fight. There is no fight. We can see by for example, his last fight this weekend. Unfortunately, he was not able to save a good takedown and keep the control and get the submission like he did it for most of the guys. And once again, not saying nothing bad of him. Like I'm really fan of his game, I'm really fan of him. But I wanted to have more. I see like for example, Durinho. Durinho, he has super heavy hands. He didn't become the best striker in the world, but man, when he touch hurts.
Yeah.
People respect his hands. And once you make people respect your hands, he has openings for to go for a takedown, for do a submission, for do the next steps. So I wanna get a very solid wrestling and learn how to like put power in the hand. Not be the best martial artist on the stand up striking, but like I wanna if I touch somebody, I punch somebody, people are like, oh, that's my goal in the transition.
Exciting. Can't wait for that transition coming up next year. Stay tuned. Wes, what program do you have Patrick on, and dive in a little bit more about the rehab that he did, because I know it was a proud moment for you because he said it himself. He was looking at other options and you kind of helped him through and get him back on track. So what program or tell us a little bit about his therapy and what you have him doing for this upcoming season for his strength and conditioning in terms of competition. And maybe you guys can both touch on that, but explain a little bit more what your approach was with Patrick.
Yeah. So first of all, it's great to have a motivated athlete. This is, Patrick is a high-level black belt. He wants to he wants to be the best in jiu-jitsu and MMA. He's got a really good drive. And so having somebody that is willing to, I don't like the term buy in, but somebody has to buy into physical therapy. Mm-hmm. Somebody has to buy in that this is going to help them. And he was motivated, and he didn't want to go through surgery. He's been through knee surgery before. So first of all, having buy-in and having somebody say, I want to try this and I'm going to be committed to this is the first step. So immediately I was like, this is great. The other thing with rehab is it sucks when anybody gets injured. But after an injury like this, it's kind of nice because you get to build somebody, you get to build a program from the ground up. Injuries suck, but you have to make an athlete better than when they were before they got injured. It can never be about just taking them to the point where they got injured, because that's the point where they got hurt. So you always have to focus on getting somebody better than they were before. So you have to build them. You have to build an athlete from the ground up. I mean, somebody's injured and can't walk for 2 weeks. Well, we got to get range of motion and then start building strength and build them from essentially the ground up. So that's kind of the foundational stuff. So the very beginning of the rehab process was just that: get range of motion, start light strength training, test the tissue tolerance, and then I go through, in my head, I think about where are we at in an injury, where are directional limits. So his was an LCL, so which is for our listeners who are not familiar with knee anatomy, it's the ligament that connects the two bones of the knee on the outside. So I know that I have a ligament that is torn or partially torn. So if I want to do side-to-side movements, I can't do side-to-side movements for a while, but I can do movements front to back. So I start strengthening in front to back. So you can do split squats, you can do front squats, you can do all these. And kind of as the pain goes down, as the swelling goes down, you start testing side to side. So you start going, you don't start with lunges, because that requires you to come off of your leg and to plant with load on it. So then you start like testing side to side lunges without actually bringing the leg off. So that starts stressing that LCL, but under a smaller load than actually having like pounding on a healing LCL. So then you start adding rotation. Once that's good, you start adding rotation. So now we're strengthening in 3 different planes. So once you get through those parameters, then the sky is the limit. And then you start a full strength and conditioning program. So for Patrick, we went through how where he felt like he needed improvement, what his goals were, what he wanted to improve on, and we dialed in. I do a lot of heart rate based conditioning, focusing on cardio, and so you obviously can't neglect strength. You have to strength train. One of my biggest pet peeves, and then I'm going to stop rambling. But one of my biggest pet peeves with anybody that's working with an athlete is trainers. Trainers have the ability, physical therapists, trainers, anybody that you're working with outside of the gym have the ability to make an athlete better and make their performance on the mats better. They also have the ability to take away performance on the mats. So when, for instance, you have an athlete doing strongman or Olympic lifts, that is a skill. That's a technical skill. It's just like jiu-jitsu. You have so much energy capital is what I call it, which, your brain requires energy. Learning a new skill requires energy. So I prefer to take, most jiu-jitsu athletes know how to do a squat. Most jiu-jitsu athletes know how to do a deadlift. I prefer not to put somebody under another skills acquisition phase and take away their learning capital on the jiu-jitsu mats. So when I strength train people, or I have them doing their strength training, I try to find out the things that they already know. I incorporate it into their training, and then it allows them to worry less about, am I strongman lifting the best that I could be? Is my overhead snatch where it needs to be? No, none of that stuff is applicable to jiu-jitsu. It'll take away from performance on the mats if you do that with jiu-jitsu athletes. We're jiu-jitsu athletes, not strongman athletes, and I don't believe in putting jiu-jitsu athletes in strongman conditions. So, or Olympic lift conditions for that matter. You know, I think in keeping it super basic and then relatable. I mean, I've said this on the podcast before. Jiu-jitsu athletes need to do 7 conditions or 9 conditions. You need to be able to squat, lunge, hinge, push, pull, rotate. That's it. So for what Patrick and I are doing, Patrick wanted to get better at get his gas tank up, and he wanted to be able to push the pace in his competitions. He's been working on his wrestling, which requires a high level of cardiac output, high level of cardio. So we're strength training and we're working on cardio so that he's pushing the pace and he's constantly working and he's wearing people out and grinding them out on the mats. So it's been really nice because we've built the strength, 3 different planes. We're doing cardio, we're strength training, and I mean, he's doing an MMA camp and a jiu-jitsu camp, and he's holding up.
Bravo. Nice. It's a process, right? And sometimes it's laborious and long, and that's why to have an athlete like Patrick, like you said, to buy in, it's really just, he just knows he wants to get better, you know? And if you can see that path, you just have to commit. And I know with therapy especially, and just to listen to you explain it, and I've went through the same therapy with Wes, you start like at the very basics. So it takes a long time. So a lot of times, especially for athletes, you know, you want to push ahead and push too quickly or advance too quickly or get back on the mats. But sometimes you have to dumb it down all the way back to square one and really start, like Wes said, you know, it's literally no weight bearing. Taking a side step is step 1, you know. Can you step from side to side? Literally just taking steps. I mean, that's what it was for me in terms of when I hurt my knee. It was like the first week was, can I just start walking regularly? And then it's the next week is Wes adds a little bit more and adds a little bit more. But you have to go through the process, and it's like, it sucks sometimes, you know, because it's not really, you know that you've done more and that you want to do more and that you can do more. But when you have an injury, especially, it's like you really got to just nurture it along. I don't know if that would be the proper term that you would use, but, you know, in a smart way, you're just rebuilding everything. And I love what you said about not getting him back to where he was, but taking it all the way back and building up and beyond where they were, you know, and that's really what it is with strength training, right? I mean, you said it also, you know, don't expend energy in these other avenues. Well, it makes more sense if you're a jiu-jitsu athlete to apply the skills that are applicable to jiu-jitsu, you know, the movements, the strength. You're going to need different types of strength. Some of that you get on the mats just by grappling.
100%.
And sometimes you can, you know, add to it. And I just know that I've talked to Wes about Patrick in particular and the progress you guys have made and how much effort Patrick's put into it. So hats off to you guys on working together as a team. It's great to see. And I think it's going to show as soon as Patrick gets over this little episode of sickness. We'll see him back on the mats and crushing it in these next competitions. And I think Patrick, you're probably itching to get back out there. I can already tell it's been 4 months. You got a couple of them coming up in the next 2 or 3 months, right? When is the PAN championship? What month is that? Is that September?
September 4th.
September? 5th. Okay. So you have these next 3 months, at least 3 competitions, right? We're talking American Nationals, Phoenix Open, and then PAN.
Austin too.
Austin. Okay.
If I don't do Phoenix, I'm gonna do Austin. There is one more city that I forgot. That's right before the PANs. I think it's Vegas again. I'm pretty much. Okay. I don't remember which one. Man, something that's I was thinking about that is really crazy is because nobody wanted. For example, I'm teaching a student, you know, and like say like, man, do 20 reps. The guy gonna be like struggling to do the 20, like, fuck, I finished the 20, I'm done, you know, I want to leave this place now. Yeah. But once you're an athlete and the guy says to you like, hey man, do 20 reps, and if you're recovering yourself, but you can do 50. Maybe you can do 30 with 50 pounds instead of 10 pounds, you know? And you gotta look to yourself. You gotta have the self assessment and trust in the person who is taking care of your process, the person who is taking care of your training. You're like, no, man, the guy said me to do 20. I'm gonna do 20. Even if I want to do the extra mile, I'm not gonna do this extra mile now because I know that if I do the extra mile, I can get hurt or I can do something bad to the process, you know. And I think that should be the hardest part to somebody who works with physiotherapy or any other kind of therapy, work with an athlete, because natural we're always trying to go over the limitations, you know, go over the do that extra mile. At least how I see myself, you know.
Hmm.
So what was hard in the beginning, like last sent some trainers, I was like, man, I want to do more. He was like, no, man, relax. You're gonna
Yeah.
get there. You're gonna get there. Relax. And I
Yeah.
think that's important. Trust in the guy who is leading your process, who is guiding you, you know.
100%.
Yeah, and I don't, Patrick's going to find something out here too right now. What it's going to look like, it's going to be nice when MMA camp is over and Nationals is going to be over. What the plan is going forward, we've got a bunch of competitions planned out. And it's all going to lead to pans. The main event is pans for Patrick. And so we'll go through a deload week where he's probably not going to be doing much. He's going to let his body recover, rest. So yeah, we'll do an entire testing week. We'll find out exactly where he needs a little bit of help, and then we'll design an off the mat training to really capitalize and develop those areas of his game off the mat. So, and it'll carry right over to competition. So it'll be great.
Perfect. We're looking forward to it. I can't wait. I hope to see you when you come out here to Phoenix, Patrick. Hope you get better. Hope you're feeling better soon, quickly here. I know you have a tournament coming up next week. Tell everybody if they want to follow your journey over these next few months, what's your Instagram? Tell everybody what your Instagram handle is so they can follow you.
Okay, my
Or
Instagram.
your social media.
My Instagram is Patrick BJJ. Very simple. My name is the order we train. Uh, Man, that was a pleasure with you guys. I hope I can go to Phoenix, go back to see you guys in Chill Fit. Soon be close to Denver too to see Wes. It's gonna be awesome. I wanna be
For
training for you
sure.
guys
If
though.
you get awesome, man, come into Chill Fit and get some cold treatments. Get your body frozen before the tournament or after. We'll hook you up.
Oh, thanks, bro. That'd be awesome. That's be cool. I wanna see you guys competing though.
Thanks for joining us,
I wanna
Patrick.
see you
Wes.
guys in the Masters though. I wanna see that happening.
All right, man. We got to make it happen.
I'm putting a season together right now. I'm having a little bit of issues with IBJJF. So I don't know what changed. They didn't make me do this for purple belt, and so I'm getting that squared away, and then I am gonna start getting registered. Getting registered.
We gotta do a
Perfect.
program for the next year.
All right, guys. Have a great day, and yeah, for sure. Get registered. Get it all going. All right, guys. Patrick, we'd love to have you on again sometime. Maybe when you start your MMA journey, we'll check back in with you.
Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
We'll see you guys.
Oof.
All right,
man.
guys.